For a brief few seconds, Stitch stopped struggling. Liesel used that time to move up to the pony's head and grab hold of the picket line. A moment before, she had had to fight down panic at how weak she'd felt, fighting the force of the water to get to Stitch. Something in that panic must have set loose the adrenaline that hit her, as if she'd been given an injection. She could feel it coursing through her core and out her arms and legs to her extremities. Using the strength that came with it, Liesel pulled herself hand over hand up the line. After a few steps, she gave up trying to keep her feet on the ground, as it was easier to let the water take her body while she made slow headway up the rope. 5 minutes ago, there had been brownish pools of water swirling out onto the meadow the horses had been grazing in, rising higher and higher, but essentially moving horizontally, not vertically. Now, these pools were being incorporated into the current of an unrecognizable torrent in full flood stage, bent on reaching the valley, claiming everything in its path, and also much that no rational person would have ever considered to be in its path. Had Liesel not had every nerve in her body focused on getting to that picket, she might have heard Elsie screaming at her to give it up and try to save herself. Had she looked up, she would have seen 20-foot waves, with branches and rocks tumbling within the maelstrom only a few yards away. But she struggled on, managing most of the time to keep her head above water, her body strung out behind her like a mermaid's. She had to stop, almost there. Her heart beat in her throat and head so fast and loud she felt as if her head would explode. Her lungs, starved for air, made her feel as she had once before when thrown from a horse onto her back on hard earth. Instead of being able to take in air, she could barely hold on for the spasmodic heaving that took its place. Only the rising water got her going again. With one last lunge, she reached the end of the line. Liesel knew that she had put the stake in on the straight vertical, since any picket driven into the earth on an angle will give way. She also knew that the best way to get it out was to position herself right over it. As far as she could determine, she was now over it. So with her last remnant of strength, she took the biggest breath she could manage and went under water. To her surprise and great relief, one yank was all it took. Water had loosened the soil, and seconds later she bobbed to the surface, still clutching at the stake. Simultaneously she extended her legs, expecting to feel the ground beneath her. But there was no ground there, and terror gripped her as she realized that in setting Stitch free, she had catapulted both of them perilously close to the ever-widening vortex of cascading water to their right.